Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Think about flipping a light switch tonight. It's such a simple, everyday action, right? But doing that actually separates you from the reality of almost every human who ever lived. When light floods your room, you probably don't even think twice about it. But for the vast, vast majority of our species' existence, that switch just didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went completely and honestly, terrifyingly dark.
Just consider this totally staggering statistic. For 99.9% of human history, we're talking over 300,000 years here, every single one of our ancestors spent roughly half of their lives in near total darkness. Like literally couldn't even see their own hands in front of their faces. For most of that time, there were absolutely no candles, no street lamps, just nothing but the black sky, the stars, and whatever fire they could manage to keep alive.
So, this naturally leads us to this massive, just fascinating mystery. What did they actually do for all those hours? Well, as we're going to see in this explainer, the answer to that question completely reshapes everything we think we know about sleep, about storytelling, and really about the very origins of human culture itself.
Part 1. Fire and the Safety Circle. If we go back roughly 1 million years to Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, we find the very first solid evidence of humans controlling fire. And, the contrast before and after this discovery is literally night and day. Before fire, our ancestors were basically like every other primate. When the sun went down, our completely terrible night vision meant we had to climb a tree or find a hiding spot and just stay perfectly still. Because moving around, that meant becoming a late-night snack for predators like leopards and hyenas, who, unfortunately for us, could see perfectly in the dark. But fire instantly changed that survival equation. It granted us 2 to 4 extra actually usable hours on the ground every single day.
And a campfire didn't just give us light, it created a literal boundary between life and death. We're talking about a safety circle roughly 30 feet in diameter. Inside that circle, predators stayed away. But stepping outside of it meant you were incredibly vulnerable. Even today, anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have noted that wandering away from the fire at night significantly increases the risk of being killed by a predator.
Moving on to Part 2, the birth of culture.
So those 2 to 4 extra hours of safety essentially gave early humans a brand new canvas. Over thousands of generations, this completely altered how we interacted as a species. We can actually see this in a really cool 2014 study by anthropologist Polly Wisner. She studied one of the last groups on Earth still living close to our original lifestyle, out in the Kalahari Desert. And the breakdown is fascinating. During the day, 80% of their conversations were purely practical. Hunting, gathering, logistics. Basically, it was work. But at night, sitting around the fire, a massive 81% of the conversation completely shifted to storytelling.
That's right. Around the fire, we started sharing tales of distant adventures, we made up jokes, and we invented myths about the origins of the world. Wiesner actually argued that this environment was where human culture was born. Think about it. Around the fire, humans learned to think beyond the immediate present and imagine things that didn't even exist yet. It is quite literally where we became us.
Part 3. The Forgotten Sleep.
But here's the thing. The night wasn't just for telling stories. When the fire finally died down, our ancestors experienced sleep in a totally different way than we do today. Back in 2001, historian Roger E. Eckerch spent 16 years digging through archives, and he uncovered over 500 historical references to a very specific, completely forgotten sleep pattern. He found it everywhere, in 15th century prayer books, medieval diaries, medical texts, and even way back in ancient works like Homer's Odyssey. For centuries, modern translators had constantly mistranslated these references because, they simply couldn't fathom a world without the continuous 8-hour block of sleep that we just assume is natural today.
Before the industrial age hit, human biology followed a totally different rhythm. It worked like this. People went to bed shortly after sunset and experienced what they called a first sleep for about 4 hours. Then, they woke up. They stayed fully awake for 1 to 2 hours right in the middle of the night, a period they called the watch, before eventually going back down for a second sleep of 4 more hours until dawn.
And they didn't just lie there staring at the ceiling in frustration either. This wasn't insomnia, it was perfectly normal. During the watch, people were actually incredibly active, just in a quiet way. A 16th century physician even noted it was the absolute best time to conceive children. People would visit neighbors, interpret their fresh dreams, study, or, simply lie in the peaceful dark to think. It was this dedicated time when the mind was calm and the rest of the world was completely still.
Which brings us to Part 4, the biological night. Amazingly, science actually proved this historical rhythm back in 1992. Psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health decided to completely remove artificial light from volunteers' lives, basically giving them 14 hours of darkness a night to perfectly mirror our ancestors' environment. And the results? Totally stunning. Within weeks, every single participant naturally reverted to the exact biphasic schedule we just talked about: first sleep, a wakeful period, and then second sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Their bodies just did it autonomously, completely proving that this rhythm is hardwired right into us, just buried under centuries of light bulbs and glowing screens.
What's even wilder, Ware actually measured their hormone levels during that middle-of-the-night wakefulness, and he found elevated levels of a hormone called prolactin. These participants weren't just awake, they were experiencing a deeply peaceful, almost meditative state of consciousness. It was this distinct human experience, right? An entirely separate state of mind that most modern humans have just completely lost.
Part 5. Conquering the Dark.
So, what exactly killed this unique phase of human consciousness and severed our natural connection to the night? Well, the answer is tragically simple. We conquered the dark. Over just a few short centuries, technological progress rapidly assassinated a biological rhythm that had existed for 300,000 years. In the 1600s, cities like Paris installed street lamps to reduce crime. Then came cheaper candles, gas lamps in the 1800s, and finally, the real game changer, Thomas Edison commercializing the electric light bulb in 1879. Boom! Within a single generation, the ancient night was effectively gone.
And hey, here is a pretty surprising fact about how we used to view the night. Did you know the word curfew actually comes from the French phrase couvre-feu, which literally translates to cover fire? Yeah, in medieval towns, a bell would ring to signal everyone to extinguish their fires. Because for most of human history, the dark was legally and socially meant for sleeping and vulnerability. Being out at night was super suspicious, even illegal without a lantern. The night essentially belonged to the supernatural and to criminals, definitely not to everyday activity.
Part 6. Reframing modern insomnia.
Today, we've basically flooded that darkness with light, and we call it progress. However, there is a massive biological cost to this. The average modern human is exposed to 7 to 8 hours of artificial light after sunset, which completely blinds our bodies to the natural rhythms of the Earth. I mean, your body literally doesn't know the difference between an LED screen and the actual sun. When blue light hits your retina at 11 p.m., your brain misinterprets it as daytime. It suppresses and delays the release of melatonin, your sleep-regulating hormone. And as a result, our ancient circadian rhythm completely fractures.
Yet incredibly, our ancient programming is right there, just below the surface, waiting to be reactivated. Researchers have actually found that if you take people camping for just 1 week in true natural darkness with absolutely zero artificial light, their melatonin production perfectly aligns with the sunset once again. It shifts by nearly 2 whole hours. That is literally all it takes for 300,000 years of evolutionary programming to reassert itself.
Which brings us to a really radical new way to look at how we sleep today. We constantly treat waking up in the middle of the night as a disorder, right? We take pills for it, we stress over it, but think about everything we've uncovered in this explainer. The next time you wake up at 2 in the morning and find yourself lying in the dark, consider this. What if your body isn't actually broken? What if it's just remembering exactly what it was built to do?